What if one of America's most infamous serial killers took secrets to the grave? What if the man who terrorized an entire nation waited until the very end, until hours before his execution, to finally tell the truth? And what if Ted Bundy's final confession revealed more victims than anyone ever imagined? Tonight, we uncover what Ted Bundy admitted before death and what he never wanted the world to know. For years, Ted Bundy was more than just a killer. He was a master manipulator, a law student, a charming stranger who blended seamlessly into society. He looked harmless, intelligent, trustworthy, and that was his greatest weapon. By the time police finally caught him, dozens of young women had vanished across multiple states. Bodies were discovered, but not nearly enough to match the growing list of missing persons tied to Bundy. The question haunted investigators for decades: how many did Ted Bundy really kill? Bundy was arrested, tried, convicted, and sentenced to death in Florida. But even behind bars, he never stopped controlling the narrative. He gave interviews. He hinted at secrets. He played psychological games with detectives, reporters, even psychologists. Ted Bundy loved attention, and for years he refused to confess. What most people don't know is this: Ted Bundy didn't begin confessing out of guilt. He did it out of desperation. As his execution date drew closer, January 24, 1989, Bundy realized time was running out. Appeals were failing. Clemency was denied. For the first time, Ted Bundy was no longer in control. And that's when he made a decision that shocked everyone. He started talking. In the final days of his life, Bundy met privately with investigators, offering details about murders he had never formally admitted to. These weren't vague statements. He provided locations, methods, and chilling insights into his crimes. But there was a catch. Ted Bundy didn't confess directly. Instead, he spoke in the third person. He described murders as if someone else committed them, referring to himself as the offender. Psychologists believe this was Bundy's final defense mechanism. Even at the edge of death, he refused to fully accept responsibility. Before his execution, Ted Bundy confessed to 30 murders across 7 states, but investigators believe that number is far too low. Bundy traveled constantly. He crossed state lines with ease. Some victims were never found. Others were misclassified as runaways. In private sessions, Bundy hinted at additional victims, women whose names were never released, whose families never received closure. One detective later said Bundy's confessions opened doors that could never be closed again. In one of his final interviews, Bundy admitted something that stunned even seasoned investigators. He described how his urges intensified over time. The killings became more frequent, more violent, more impulsive. Bundy confessed that nothing ever satisfied him, that each murder only fueled the desire for the next. This revelation shattered the myth that serial killers eventually cool off. For Ted Bundy, the violence was escalating, right until the moment he was caught. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of Bundy's final admissions came from what he didn't say. He never provided full details for every victim. He never revealed all burial locations. He never apologized to families. And just hours before his execution, Bundy made one final attempt to delay his death, offering more information in exchange for time. The state refused. At 7:16 a.m., Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair. Outside the prison, crowds gathered, some celebrating, others mourning, many simply desperate for closure. But closure never came. To this day, investigators believe Ted Bundy may have killed over 100 women. Missing persons cases remain unsolved. Families still wait for answers. And some of Bundy's secrets died with him. Or did they? Because years later, new evidence surfaced. Old case files were reopened, and a chilling possibility emerged: that Ted Bundy's final confession may have been only half the truth. The victims Bundy never officially confessed to, the evidence that suggests his kill count was far higher, and the one confession investigators believe he intentionally withheld until the very end. Because with Ted Bundy, even death didn't end the mystery. When Ted Bundy was executed, the world believed the story had ended. But for investigators, for victims' families, and for those who spent years studying Bundy's words line by line, the real mystery was only beginning. Because what Ted Bundy confessed to didn't match what the evidence suggested, and that discrepancy would haunt law enforcement for decades. After Bundy's death, detectives revisited his final statements with fresh eyes. They compared his confessions against missing persons reports, timelines, and unsolved cases stretching across the United States. What they found was deeply unsettling. Ted Bundy's movements didn't align with the official victim count. There were gaps, entire periods where Bundy was unaccounted for, traveling freely, leaving behind no confirmed crimes. But plenty of unanswered questions. And those gaps told a story Bundy never finished. Bundy confessed to 30 murders, but investigators quickly realized something didn't add up. Some victims linked to Bundy through circumstantial evidence were never mentioned in his final interviews. Others disappeared in locations Bundy was known to visit, but their cases were never officially closed. In states like Utah, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, law enforcement quietly reopened files. Women who vanished without a trace, bodies never recovered, cases ruled as accidents, runaways, or unknown suspects. Ted Bundy fit the pattern, but Bundy never spoke their names. Why? That question became central to understanding Ted Bundy's final game. Because even in confession, Bundy was still controlling the narrative. Psychologists believe Bundy withheld information deliberately, not out of mercy, not out of remorse, but out of power. By confessing only to certain crimes, Bundy maintained control over investigators long after his death. He decided which families received answers and which would remain in permanent uncertainty. Bundy once hinted that knowing where a body was hidden gave him a sense of ownership, and in death, that ownership remained. Years after Bundy's execution, something unexpected happened. Advancements in forensic science, especially DNA analysis, allowed investigators to re-examine evidence from cold cases once considered unsolvable. Hair samples, fibers, preserved evidence bags untouched for decades. In multiple cases, Bundy emerged again as a strong suspect, despite never having confessed. One investigator described the realization as watching a ghost reappear. Ted Bundy was still leaving fingerprints on crimes he never admitted to. One of the most disturbing revelations involved Bundy's travel history. During the early 1970s, Bundy frequently crossed state lines, often without explanation. He took spontaneous trips, disappeared for days, sometimes weeks. There were no arrests, no confirmed sightings, no alibis, but there were missing women. Investigators now believe that Bundy's most violent period may have occurred during these undocumented stretches, murders that were never officially linked to him because no bodies were found, and Bundy never corrected the record. In one of Bundy's final recorded interviews, he made a statement that barely made headlines, but should have. He said, "There are some things that people will never know." At the time, it sounded like arrogance. Now many believe it was a confession of its own. Bundy wasn't just acknowledging secrets. He was confirming that the full truth died with him. Perhaps the darkest consequence of Bundy's silence lies with the families. Mothers who never buried their daughters. Siblings who never learned what happened. Names frozen forever in missing persons databases. Some families petitioned investigators to reopen cases tied to Bundy's travel routes. Others begged for DNA comparisons, but without remains, without confessions, without closure, justice remained out of reach, and Bundy knew that. So how many people did Ted Bundy really kill? Some experts say 30, others say 50. A few believe the number could exceed 100. The truth is, we may never know, because Ted Bundy understood something chilling. You don't have to tell the whole truth to control history. You only have to tell enough. Before his execution, Ted Bundy had one final meeting, one that received very little attention. A quiet conversation, no cameras, no official transcript released. And according to those familiar with the case, Bundy hinted at one specific crime that had never been publicly connected to him. A crime so disturbing, so carefully concealed, that investigators believe it may explain why Bundy delayed confessing for so long. The case Bundy almost revealed, but didn't. The evidence investigators believe points directly to him, And the final secret that may redefine Ted Bundy's true legacy, because even in death, Ted Bundy may still be hiding the worst truth of all. For decades, one question refused to die. Not who Ted Bundy was, not what he did, but what he never said. Because buried beneath his final confessions, beneath the interviews, the tapes, and the third-person admissions, was something darker. A truth so carefully guarded that even at the edge of death, Ted Bundy chose silence. In the final days before his execution, Bundy met privately with investigators one last time. No cameras, no press, no official recording released to the public. Only notes, fragments, and memories from the people in that room. For years, those meetings were dismissed as insignificant, until one detail resurfaced. During that final meeting, Bundy reportedly asked a question, a strange one. He asked whether investigators believed every missing person case deserved closure, even if the truth was worse than not knowing. At the time, no one understood what he meant. Now, many believe this question was Bundy's way of testing how far he could go, without crossing the line into full confession, because there was one case investigators suspected he was circling, a disappearance that didn't fit the others, a victim who didn't match his usual pattern, and a crime so calculated that it revealed a side of Bundy few had ever seen. Most of Bundy's known victims fit a recognizable profile, but this one didn't. The victim vanished without witnesses. No body was ever found. No physical evidence conclusively tied Bundy to the scene. What made the case stand out was timing. Bundy was in the area. He had no alibi. And shortly after the disappearance, he abruptly left the state. When investigators asked Bundy about that period of time, he went quiet. For the first time, the man who loved to talk refused. Criminal psychologists believe this was not fear, it was calculation. By refusing to confess to this specific crime, Bundy preserved something he valued more than attention, his own internal narrative. This case challenged the image Bundy had crafted. It suggested premeditation on a level even more disturbing than his other crimes. It suggested restraint, planning, and a level of control that contradicted his claims of escalating impulses. If confessed, it would destroy the final illusion Bundy clung to, that he was driven, not deliberate. So he chose silence. Years later, advances in forensic science brought new attention to the case. Old evidence was re-examined, witness statements re-evaluated, travel records aligned, and slowly a pattern emerged. Bundy's movements placed him exactly where the victim vanished. Behavioral analysis matched his known methods, and circumstantial evidence pointed in one direction: Ted Bundy. But without a confession, without remains, the case could never be officially closed. On the morning of his execution, Ted Bundy was offered a chance to speak, to confess, to clarify, to leave nothing hidden. He declined. Instead, he spoke about violence in abstract terms, about how society created monsters, about responsibility without ownership. And then, time ran out. At 7:16 a.m., the switch was thrown. Ted Bundy was dead. But the questions he left behind were very much alive. The most unsettling realization may be this: Ted Bundy didn't confess everything because he didn't want redemption. He wanted immortality. By leaving mysteries unsolved, by keeping certain truths locked away, Bundy ensured his name would never disappear, that people would keep talking, keep wondering, and here we are, decades later, still searching for answers he chose not to give. Somewhere there are families who never receive closure. They still check records, still read articles, still wonder whether the name Ted Bundy explains what happened to their loved one. For them, this isn't history, it's an open wound. And the silence Bundy left behind may be the cruelest thing he ever did. Ted Bundy is often remembered for his charm, his intelligence, his manipulative nature. But strip all of that away, and what remains is something far simpler. A man who chose power over truth, control over closure, and mystery over mercy. Even in death, he denied peace to the people he hurt the most. Maybe the real horror isn't how many people Ted Bundy killed. Maybe it's how many answers he stole. Because some secrets don't die with the killer. They haunt the living. If this story made you question what you thought you knew, if you believe every victim deserves to be remembered, subscribe to Echoes of Crime. Like this video to keep these stories alive. Comment below, do you believe Ted Bundy confessed to everything? Or was the worst truth never spoken? Because silence protects no one, and the truth, no matter how dark, deserves to be heard.